City Shrouded in Shadow is a unique action-adventure survival video game by Granzella and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment. Released for the PlayStation 4 in Japan on October 19th, 2017, the game stands out for its very unusual premise where players navigate a city under siege by famous giant monsters and robots from various Japanese franchises like Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, and Neon Genesis Evangelion. The concept for the game originated from Kazuma Kujo, the founder of Granzella, who was known for his work on the Disaster Report series. Granzella aimed to create games that offered novel experiences. The idea of a game featuring ordinary people surviving in a city being destroyed by iconic giant monsters was innovative and ambitious, blending survival adventure elements with pop culture icons. If we're being honest here, it hadn't really been done up until that point, unless you count those garbage Godzilla iOS apps from 2014. The game begins with the player character and their companion, who are ordinary civilians, caught up in a catastrophic event where the city is attacked by giant creatures. As they try to survive and escape the city, they encounter various iconic monsters and robots, each presenting a new threat. Each level is centered around one kaiju set piece. So, for example, it's going to be Godzilla fighting King Ghidorah, or Gamera fighting Gyaos. You're not going to get Godzilla fighting Gamera, unfortunately. So what's the story? Well, the game begins with the protagonist meeting Yuki when the city is suddenly attacked by alien Zarab, disguised as Ultraman. Players navigate the destruction and meet journalist Otsuka after escaping two Yakuza members. While escaping a wrecked subway train, the protagonists encounter Legion creatures. They receive help from Otsuka's assistant, Riza, and escape the city by car as Gamera arrives to fight off the Legion. As they try to cross a bridge, the same two Yakuza members pursue the protagonist but are stopped by a battle between Mothra and Battra. With help from Detective Fujiwara, inside a building the protagonists are yet again pursued by the two Yakuza members but are distracted by Otsuka. Yuki is briefly held hostage by terrorists who are piloting a Grau bear labor, but is released once they find what they need. The player and Yuki then encounter Miho Yamamura, who mistakes Yuki for her deceased sister, before being saved by Pyro-Busters and an AV-98 Ingram from the Patlabor series. A battle between the Fourth Angel and a Berserk Evangelion Unit 1 unfolds. The protagonists help Miho reach a hospital to reunite with her father. The protagonists then find themselves on a research ship investigating large marine life. The ship is destroyed by Godzilla, and the protagonist and Yuki barely escape with their lives. Back on land, the protagonists evade two Yakuza members, who pursue them to a warehouse. A battle between rogue J9 Griffon Labor and police and military mechas ensues. They escape using a fallen Abram Labor and reunite with Riza, who sends them on a mission. The city is ravaged by a battle between Godzilla and King Ghidorah. The protagonists retrieve a package and attempt to escape by train, which is interrupted by a Kyrieloid and are saved by Ultraman Tiga. The two Yakuza members that have still been chasing them through all of this chaos and destruction are thwarted by Gyaos. Depending on player choice, Yuki may be rescued or escape on her own, with Gamera making a timely appearance. At the National Cosmic Ray Research Laboratory, the protagonists deliver the package but must evacuate when Dada attacks, intending to shrink and collect humans as specimens. They meet Riza at a show, interrupted by a battle between Shamshel and Unit 1. The two Yakuza members kidnap Yuki, testing if the monsters are attracted to them. Godzilla appears, leading to a fight with Kiryu, who goes berserk. The protagonists navigate a sewer as the city is rampaged by Ultraman Belial and the Ultraman heroes. They are invited to a building by Detective Fujiwara, only to face more Yakuza threats. The Eighth Angel descends and a battle ensues. Yuki is taken by the Yakuza, but the player, with Fujiwara's help, distracts the thugs. Riza reveals her true allegiance and attempts to exploit the player's powers, but is stopped by Ultraseven. In the end, Yuki is revealed to be an alien, disappears and leaves the player with newfound abilities and a sense of extraordinary events that they survived. Riza faces justice, and the journalist Otsuka profits from all these stories. The player ends on a reflective note, enjoying a meal and pondering the events that they have just endured. So it's safe to say that the story is like just complete nonsense. It's very much just taking two action figures and just slamming them together to tell a story. Like, it's just insane. Talking strictly gameplay now, players take on the roles of various characters who must navigate the city, avoid hazards, and make critical decisions to ensure their safety and the safety of their companions. Unlike traditional kaiju games where players would control the monsters, this game flips the perspective, emphasizing human vulnerability and the desperate struggle to survive against overwhelming odds. The game utilizes a third-person perspective, and the player's choices throughout the narrative kind of impact the story, but not really. Like, you're going to kind of get the same ending regardless. Upon its release, City Shrouded in Shadow received mixed to positive reviews. Critics praised the game's unique concepts and the thrill of surviving kaiju attacks, as well as the nostalgia of seeing beloved characters in a new light. However, some pointed out the technical issues like frame rate drops and very, very repetitive gameplay. On top of that, the game was never released outside of Japan. So the gameplay itself is very reliant on reading for puzzles. So if you can't read Japanese, then you're pretty much out of luck. Despite this though, the game has garnered a very niche but dedicated fan base and is considered to be a cult hit. Ultimately, I'm not a fan. It may sound crazy to not like a game that features Godzilla, Gamera, and Ultraman, but hear me out. The game is just not a fun experience. Like I said, it's not in English, so it's borderline unplayable for someone like me that doesn't fluently speak Japanese. Not to mention, I had to rely on external sources to figure out what the actual plot was, and even then, it's borderline nonsensical. The premise is really awesome. I love the idea of playing as a human and trying to survive a kaiju attack. I could see this idea working in a Dead by Daylight format where a group of players are human and one is a kaiju. And if you want to keep it as a single-player game, maybe make it like the Telltale Walking Dead games, where it's character-driven and your choices actually matter beyond just a few choices that really don't matter, but the game treats it like you do. It's just a ton of missed potential, given how massive of a crossover this truly is. I see a lot of people complaining that this game wasn't a fighting game, but I like having more diverse genres in kaiju gaming. A kaiju game doesn't have to just be, destroy all monsters melee. You can do more with the format. Even then, we already have a really good crossover fighting game that's available to the public on modern consoles, and it's called Gigabash. I'm going to be making a video on that game soon, especially now that King Ghidorah and the Smog monster are being added as DLC. We already have Godzilla monsters, we have Ultraman monsters, and we have their original monsters in the roster. It's pretty jam-packed, so check that game out. If you can find a copy, check out City Shrouded in Shadow. You could play it regardless of region, so just because it's a Japanese game doesn't mean that you need a Japanese PS4. And PlayStation 4s play any games, so if you get your hands on a copy, I don't know, give it a try. And with all of that out of the way, I'm Cole McCormick. You're watching Firewood Media. Consider becoming a member to support the channel. It's kind of like Patreon, but for YouTube. For just $1.99 a month, you'll receive member shoutouts and your name featured as an executive producer in all of our film projects. There's also going to be members-only videos like my review of Godzilla -1. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's just an extra perk for anyone that wants to support the channel while also getting to see some unique content. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.